Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, guess what? I was not yet. Welcome to Politics Done Right, folks. How are you doing today? I was only 30 seconds late today. I got that last video made and processed on the nick of time, and it's that one that I'm just showing there. And I had it queued up wrong. Anyway, we are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard, the first person in the house on the chat. El Señor Michael Rodnin, one again from New York, from Brooklyn, New York. He says, tired out, having a lazy day, listening in. You listen, my brother. You work very hard. You always have us those nice entries, etc. Welcome aboard. We also have second in the house today was El Señor J. Ray with a roar. How you doing, Ray? Welcome aboard. The first few dozens on Substack I'm not seeing, so you folks can let me know if you want me to call out your city and state and who you are. Also, Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome aboard, my beautiful Yvette. Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood. Lee Grant from Montgomery County. We got a great show for you today. Well, every day. Come on now. You know, we try to have something, not something. We try to have fresh things. Plural. Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia is in the house as well with us. Lisa, welcome aboard. Hey guys, good luck to DJT in brokering peace in Gaza. It's a farce, but I won't go into that today. I'll leave that to E2247. It is guaranteed to fail because, again, the other partner is Netanyahu, and Netanyahu never fulfills promises. Netanyahu cannot be trusted, so therefore it will fail. Carl Cox is in the house from Riverdale, Georgia. Welcome aboard, Carl Cox. All right, folks. We're going to go over three subjects today. Let me pull that thing up that I have. Numero uno, we're going to go over the mass murder and get some truths out about that. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia is in the house as well. We're also going to, I did an interview with WBAI in New York yesterday. So we're going to go over that interview. We talk about Mandami and we talk about the shutdown. We're going to talk about that. And the new thing, the thing that I think I'm going to hold for last is TrumpRX, Trump's drug program, or the drug reducing the price of drugs, etc. And you guys are going to be shocked of what I'm going to say about it. You're going to be shocked. But suffice it to say, I'm going to give you a teaser. A clock can be right. A dead clock. That's on a 12-hour scale. Can be right twice a day. Don't forget that. It can be right twice a day. Back, I'm going to give you another teaser. Way back in 2016, I wrote an article for Netroots, actually not Netroots, for Daily Kos, that I got slammed for. I explained to people why Donald Trump could win. And even though in 2016 he didn't get the popular vote, he won in the areas he needed to win. And we actually thought there's a good possibility he could have won the popular vote based on what we've been, Michael Moore was talking about it. I brought a few of different perspectives up at Daily Kos and was summarily dismissed, cussed out, talked about how naive I was, and it basically said the following. Donald Trump knows how to triangulate, and the establishment left themselves open for triangulation. as I'm going to go over the his drug policy on my third subject, I want you guys to think about Nancy Pelosi and the convoluted drug saving program that they designed that talked about 10 drugs getting placed on a bid, and then they do all kind of calculations to see how to lower the price for X amount of drugs or whatever. All that busted silliness in order for us to reduce prices to some extent. And look, if that's all we had, I would take it. Obamacare was a sellout to the private insurance company, but I took it. In fact, I kept on putting, personally as a host, I kept on moving my red line forward or backward, whichever one it is. I kept on backing up my red line. At first it was, we had to have a public option. Then we had to have a particular set of subsidies. And as each of these things backed up, we kept on backing up because it's all we could get. The establishment Democrats were their own enemies during the Obamacare fight, with many of them refusing to hold the drug companies and insurance companies accountable. But it's all we could get. It's all we could get. We had to wait to fight on. We had to wait to fight on. And I said I had to support it because I cared more about our fellow human beings in America that didn't have health care. I cared more about that than ego or than making a point. So we went with it. And we went with it in such a manner that it's now being dismantled, but we'll talk about that in a little. Let's go ahead and start the program with the right wing and what the right wing, Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, the vice president, they're trying to tell their people, they're trying to put into the psyche that the criminality in this country, the mass murders in this country, the shooting in this country is a right-wing thing. The truth of the matter, it is absolutely it's a left-wing thing. The truth of the matter, it is absolutely a right-wing thing. So here, let me set it up. The vice president and the entire presidency of Donald Trump and the right wing in this country and the conservatives in this country are trying to do to mass murder what they did to the word liberal. They're trying to fix into people's head things that are not true with respect to a particular label. And that is what they're trying to do with these mass murders that's been occurring. The biggest mass murders in this country has always come from the right. From slavery to genocide to lynchings to the KKK, burning down churches, killing kids, all of that. The body count is huge. And all of that came from the right. Okay? I've documented that. I've written the blogs about that. Let's just get that down. But if we even want to go in the near term, MSNBC had people on stating ridiculous facts about, well, the left, back in the 60s, it was the left because we had the bombings. Interesting about the left and the bombings in those times in the 60s. It was always, hey guys, get out of there. We're bombing that house. Hey guys, get out of there. We want to make a point by bombing that mailbox. They weren't out for killing people. Most of the times, that is. But the right is actually out to kill, maim, murder. Because that is what they stand for. That is what they stand for. And people say, oh, you're being harsh. If you don't stand for programs that keep babies alive, tell me what you stand for. If you don't stand for programs that, like the USAID, that goes out, and we've now lost hundreds of thousands of children that have died because USAID was canceled by Trump. If you don't stand by your farmers who lost out because USAID was no longer funded, so their soybeans had nowhere to go. If you are for a country that puts out policies that harm people, remove their health insurance and causes their death, I'm sorry, you may not like to hear it, but you are sanctioning death. You are sanctioning death. So that is endemic on the right, not the left. So what I want to show you here is a little breakdown that brother Mr. Conservative Joe Scarborough did, and then we'll take it on the other side.
But if you look at the political violence in our country over the last couple of months, the last couple of years, it is not a both sides problem. It is primarily on one side of the political aisle. So if we are going to truly go after the political violence in this country, we need the Democratic leadership of Washington, D.C. to look in the mirror.
So here he blames Democrats for madmen shooting things up. Blames Democrats, falsely says it's the Democrats' fault. One thing he did get right, he said it's predominantly on one side of the aisle, or one side. Mm-hmm. And it's the far right. Cato, again, the Koch brothers. Cato said it's predominantly right wing. CSIS, predominantly right wing. Every study has shown that this century, you've got Islamic radicalism, but 391 murders on the right since 1975, 65 on the left. It's just not even a close call. And sadly and tragically, it's continued this week. And you see no Democratic leaders coming out trying to blame Donald Trump. What's that? On here, you're looking at 3 decades of political violence. Yellow is far right-wing extremism, violence, and the green is the left. And yet we've seen shootings over the past several days. And Democrats haven't rushed out trying to blame the administration or trying to blame people on the far right. It's just ghoulish that you have these unspeakable tragedies, and then you have the White House, J.D. Vance, you have Donald Trump, you have Stephen Miller, you have it seems like every far-right podcaster, they all go out and they all say, this is all the Democrats' fault. And yet, when it's on the other side and it's some right-wing extremist, dead silence. You don't even hear anything. And most of the people in that closed-off information bubble don't even know about it. It's just sad. It's tragic.
And we have seen, I mean, even in very high-profile incidents in the last couple of weeks, the rush, whether it's the FBI director or the vice president, to color the narrative in the about a shooting by putting out information, false or not, but like flooding the zone with, hey, when it looks like the suspect might be, quote, left-wing. But yet we have had in recent days a number of shootings that do not appear that, where there's some of the, and we're going to get into some of the details in a second here, where it seems like some of the individuals, at least in their social media accounts, might even be more conservative in their politics. Nothing at all from the White House.
Just silence.
Just silence, just hoping it will go away.
We are learning new details about the suspect in Sunday's deadly shooting at that Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Local city council member Chris Johns tells the Detroit Free Press that before the shooting, the suspect went on an anti-LDS tirade. Johns said he met the suspect while canvassing less than a week ago, and that during their conversation, the suspect slammed the LDS church by describing Mormons as a, quote, the Antichrist. Additionally, Johns said he spotted a Trump 2024 sign on the suspect's fence. The Guardian verified the report of a Trump sign outside the suspect's home via Google Maps, showing a blue sign with Trump's last name on it attached to a shed on the side of the house. We don't know more than that right now. Additionally, the Telegraph reports the suspected shooter was a Marine who, quote, supported Trump. The Telegraph also reports that although the suspect's recent political views remain unclear, he was seen wearing a camouflage Trump 2020 campaign shirt emblazoned with the words, "Make liberals cry again," in a picture posted on social media in 2019. Investigators say the 40-year-old suspect served in the Iraq War. They say he crashed his vehicle into the church on Sunday and opened fire with an assault rifle and then set fire to the building, leaving 4 people dead and 8 others injured. Also learning more about the Marine veteran accused in a deadly mass shooting at a waterfront bar Saturday night in North Carolina. Investigators believe the suspect, 40-year-old Nigel Max Edge, intended to carry out the shooting from his boat on Friday night in Southport, but another boater interrupted his plan. Police say he returned the next night, opening fire from the waterway, killing 3 people and wounding 5 others. The police chief described the victims as vacationers visiting the popular bar where live music was playing. The district attorney said yesterday that Edge served as a Marine Corps scout sniper who was injured in the line of duty with a possible traumatic brain injury and has significant mental health issues. Military records show the suspect served from September of 2003 through June of 2009. He was deployed twice as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, receiving numerous awards, including a Purple Heart and an Iraq Campaign Medal with 2 Bronze Stars. The New York Post reports the suspect filed several lawsuits in North Carolina this year, including one accusing a Southport church of conspiring with the LGBTQ community in a plot to kill him because he's a straight man.
So let's be clear here, folks. The violence on the right far exceeds whatever the left has done. And remember as well the causality between the left and the right. The left is always attempting things to open up, make things better for humanity, while the right has been just lethal. But above and beyond, again, like I said, from the inception of this country, the body count on the right is in the hundreds of thousands from the inception of this country, if not millions. And the only reason I don't say millions is I haven't gone and done the numbers in detail. But rest assured, those are not confusions. Those are just statements of fact. Now, let me just go ahead and make another thing here. Lee the Bearcat says, oh, Axios says most of the left, it's mostly from the left. Wrong. Axios never said that. That's not what Axios said. If you read that, by the way, Axios, it seemed from that article and the author of that article, they would have liked to leave things nebulous. But here's the analysis here of that Axios article. No, Axios did not. This is from the analysis of that article. No, Axios did not flatly claim that most political violence comes from the left. What Axios reported and later clarified is more nuanced. Axios published a piece about a new CSIS study showing that in the first half of 2025, left-wing terrorist attacks or plots in the U.S. outnumbered far-right ones for the first time. Notice how they couch that. Left-wing versus far-right. But even for the period they're talking about, the first half of the year. And as soon as we got these last 2 murders by 2 right-wing white nationalists, that went out the window. That went out the window. But there was an important correction. The headline was modified to clarify that the article was referring to left-wing terrorism outpacing far-right terrorism in that specific period. So if I went ahead and I said I just looked at when some left-winger did something and then put it a couple days later, I could say 100% of the terrorism in that time period was left-wing. And that's the trick they tried to use. So even Axios had to come back and correct the misinformation because they knew how wrong they were. In fact, The original article I'm reading, the original article itself notes that left-wing violence still remains much lower than historical levels of violence carried out by right-wing and jihadist attackers. So Axios' own framing does not support the claim that most political violence is from the left. Again, guys, all you have to do is read. It's not that difficult to read. Even the articles that are trying to be a little bit false equivalence, even that couldn't do it. Looking beyond the Axios article and into data and scholarly assessments, one sees a more complex picture. Continuing, a recent CSIS brief acknowledges that while left-wing attacks and plots are increasing, which is understandable when you are under attack, they still start from a low baseline and remain far less lethal than most right-wing and jihadist attack. Historical data and analysis suggest that over long time frames, right-wing extremist violence has been far more frequent and deadly than left-wing extremism in the US. The Journal of Democracy notes, although incidents from the left are on the rise, political violence still comes overwhelmingly from the right, whether one looks at the Global Terrorism Database, FBI statistics, or the government or independent counts. So I mean, you guys, guys on the right can try to spin any way you want. The killers in this country comes from the right. The violence in this country comes from the right. And LBW, La Profesora, says, and then you have GOP members such as in Arizona calling for the murder of a sitting Democratic lawmaker. I saw that. People only read headlines and assume they know the content. Breaks my heart how poorly educated we are. It's not we are. How poorly educated, LBW, they are. But the good thing about it, LBW, is you're doing something about it. At least you're teaching your young ones to think. Diane Holland from Lansing, Michigan. Welcome aboard, sis. Glad to have you here. Okay. So again, folks, remember what they're trying to do on the right is to keep saying left-wing violence, left-wing terrorism, because they want to do to that word what they did with the word liberal. They want to make it a dirty word by lying about it. And talking about liberal and progressives, don't you find it ironic? The things that liberal and progressive stand for. We want everybody to be fed. We want everybody to have equal access to success. I didn't say equal outcomes, equal access to success based on your merit. We want to ensure that people have health care. We want all those good things. And for that, they want to call us out as being bad folk. Right? Think about the evil in that, folks. Think about the evil in that. When the things that you stand for are to make lives better for people, and these clowns, they're so entwined into a false ideology that they are willfully ignorant to the fact that they're being taken advantage of. Is that amazing or what? Is that sick or what? As LBW says, breaks my heart how poorly educated we are. LBW, from your texting to us. Diane Holland says, Michigan, MSU shooting and high school shooting. There you go. Right wingers again. Right wing again. Constancy. So folks, anytime you hear anybody try to make that statement, you make sure and send the facts. I'm writing the article on this the standalone blog for this commentary today. When I send that article out, please make sure to send it to all your friends and make sure their friends send it to their friends, because the line coming from the vice president and from folks, deluded folks like Mr. Cizek that we have in our chat, that has no clue of what reality is from fallacy, we have to make sure and keep people educated and smart. All right, second topic that we want to talk about. I got interviewed by WBAI, and we were talking about Mandami and the shutdown. So let me go ahead and play that before we go into the stuff on Donald Trump's stuff about drugs and reducing the prices of drugs. Let's go for that right now.
Roberto, first of all, welcome to our weekly morning circus. And to get your take on how does the risk of the federal government shutdown look for a city like Houston and a state like Texas? First of all, let's just start there. What do you see on the horizon?
Well, I think with the shutdown, first of all, I've been on both sides of the issue. Should we allow it to shut down or not? How is it going to affect? Well, you asked specifically about Houston. It'll affect Houston bigly, right? Because again, we have a whole lot of governmental service. We're a big city of over 3 million people. How it affect the rural areas? Bigly, because their economies are actually the high income earners in their economy work for the government. On places like New York, elsewhere, it'll affect it bigly. My thing is, Democrats are so poor marketers of what's going on that it concerns me that it's so easy to put blame on them when this entire thing is really based on Democrats wanting to ensure that in October and November, when people go to pay their insurance rates, it's not anywhere from 75% to 3 times more. And nobody knows that. On my program in the mornings, when people find out what the shutdown is really about this time around, they're shocked. So I think Democrats have done such a poor job in marketing what they're asking for that there's no pressure on the Republicans to do anything about it. And as such, if it shuts down, and then let's say they decide to do a little compromise later, it's going to be, well, you see, the economy is in shambles because those guys shut this stuff down. And that's, so I don't know I'll be honest with you. I don't know where to land on what's the best procedure here, because the way I see it, either if they shut down, the Democrats are such poor marketers that they may take the blame. If they keep it open, the left flank is going to say, there you go, you caved one more time. So honestly, Jenna, I don't know. And this is one point where I say, I just don't know where to land on this one.
Of course. Just from your perspective, because I have heard that from numerous people, is that a lot of the public does not know a lot of the goings on in Washington. A lot of people just have, for a myriad of reasons, tuned out. Do you think that the Democratic Party is relying too much on, let's say, and I'll use a regional publication, even though it's national, the Democrats are relying too much on everyone reading the New Yorker or something like that, just assuming that everyone is keeping up on politics in the way that they do inside the Beltway? I
think you nailed it. I think you just nailed exactly what's wrong with the Democratic Party. And let me kind of expand on that a little bit. I am in very red Texas. We have people priming the pump all of the times, newsletters, little breakfasts, churches. All these people are there singing one message from every different platform. Is people invest in these platforms, and they reach their people in many different ways. Progressives and Democrats have a tendency to say everybody is smart. We just have to tell you this one time, and it's that way. You should know it. You don't need to do anything after that. And that's a problem. The one thing the right has learned is repetition, even if it's the repetition of lies, is effective because the repetitions of lies become truth. And I think that is something the establishment of the Democratic Party have failed at. And while the left knows that quite well, they don't have the financing to put that out as widely as the right does. And until they wake up, sometimes I wonder, Jenna, if what's going on here is that the establishment is so very establishment right, if you will, that they don't want too much for the masses, if you will, because then you know what happens when everybody gets smart. People start asking questions. Why does things work this way?
Well, speaking of such things, let's take the conversation back to good old New York City. And Laura, were you going to add something?
No, it's. I just found it funny that Adams retired, so I mean, I gotta.
That's literally it. And actually, speaking of that, because there's still a lot of consternation within the legacy, let's say, Democratic Party over candidate Zoran Mamdani. Okay, so Egberto, I want to go back to you, because when you were mentioning that if too many people start paying attention, they might start asking questions. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the fertile ground on which Zoran Mamdani's campaign has grown. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, is the presence of someone like him something that perhaps more Democrats might be, to borrow a Texas phrase, afeared of?
Yes. And you know what is so great about that? First of all, let me just tell you, I love me some Mamdani. I think this guy is great. I think this guy is what any left party, whatever you want to call it, is in need of. Somebody that has no fear to tell the truth of our economics, and also do it in a way that is not fearful. You notice how come the DSA stuff hasn't stuck very well on him? Because what he showed is that what he stands for, the policies he stands for, it's not something you can caricature. So it is great what he's doing. And yes, Jenna, you're absolutely right. He is a template. And by the way, they're following it all over the country, from Seattle right back to Florida. We have people in every domain picking that up. And not only that, but seeming to going to win in these November elections. I'm concerned because for all those that are continuing to try the establishment, you notice how the Republicans are sort of creeping up and bringing those polls number very close. We have Mickey Sherrill and that the polls are closing up. But the guys who decide that they are going to really be not the populace, but the people who support folks, they're doing very well. So I can't wait till November. I can't wait till I think Mamdani's win is going to be bigger than everybody believe. And that's going to be a big wake up call for the Democratic Party. And it's going to throw a whole lot of Democrats in the primaries.
You heard from Egberto Wiley's, host of Politics Done Right, which airs on our Pacifica sister station in Houston. That's KPFT.
Anyway, folks, the interview is 21 minutes. Not interview, the panel. I didn't put the other people on the panel because I had to cut it down. So, but I'm going to put a link to the entire segment, which I think was about 21 minutes or so, in the header of this video when I actually do it as well. Anyhow, that was WBAI in New York. WBAI in New York. I did that yesterday. All right. Look. And this is an important subject now. And this is where we get into issues, right? Back early on in 2016, I kept on watching how the populism that Donald Trump was talking about. And I know he's full of it. But the thing about it is he was triangulating the Democrats real well. You know, while the Democrats were talking about what they did with Obamacare, etc., the private companies, Donald Trump didn't say it by name, but he came out with something that was better than Obamacare it was going to be. And when he described it, it actually sounded like Medicare for all. And I remember writing that article at Daily Kos. I couldn't find it. I kept on looking for it, where he actually said, you know, this man is triangulating you guys on not only healthcare policies, but economic policy, and he's triangulating Democrats. Because Democrats are so scared that anything they propose is going to be called socialist. I mean, even when we went ahead and after that we had the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, those turncoats, the senator from Virginia and the senator from, I think, Arizona, they refused to support the policies. Hi, Maywood from Long Beach, California. Welcome aboard. And, you know, it was so disconcerting, but Donald Trump kept triangulating them. And, you know, it worked. In as much as he had bad policies, evil men, all that good stuff, he won enough votes each time that he won enough votes. Well, he did it again early as soon as he came into office the second time around, and we had a whole lot of Democrats calling Donald Trump a socialist because Donald Trump did something that I stand for. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But Intel got several $1 billion to repatriate chip making here in the United States with the billions they got to create factories, right? Our money. The money of the United States taxpayer. And Donald Trump went ahead and he said, ha 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 ha, I gave you guys, or not I, this taxpayer gave you money. We're going to take 10% of your company. We're going to be on the board with 10%. And a lot of Republicans complained softly. Businessmen complained bigly. And some Democrats thought they had it. You see, Donald Trump is the one who's a socialist. What I would have done there as a Democrat is applaud Donald Trump and let him put it to pass. Let him bring it to the House and let him bring it to the Senate. It would pass with most of the Democratic votes. Right? So I'm sitting down there and I'm like, guys, the guy is getting ready to triangulate you again. Because think about it. Isn't it a great argument to go out there and say, you, the taxpayer, are giving these corporations money to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And they would, even after they sent and made billions by manufacturing overseas. And since you are investing in bringing these companies back, shouldn't you have a stake in that company? Trump? Yep, you're right. We should have a stake in that company. Well, that is socialism. That is okay. Did we invest in it? But by the way, can you take it a step further, Donald Trump? You see, I would have let Donald Trump hang himself with going against corporate America to support providing getting a piece of those companies if he said the same thing for every single one of the drug companies who get all of their research from the NIH, who pay universities to develop stuff. So that gave us the opening. Remember I told you it is one of two things. It is either Democrats don't know how to market, or Democrats remain willfully ignorant to marketing because they are not really where their people are. And when I say their people, I mean most people. Most people in this country, I'm going to say this once because I don't like labels. But if you look at what the definition of democratic socialists is, most Americans, when you ask them the policies they support, guess what they mimic? They are exactly equal to democratic socialists. It's amazing. They are where Bernie is. They are where Mamdani is. But they have given such a bad name. No, actually the ones in disarray are Republicans, and you're going to see that pretty soon, Lee Grant. What happens is Republicans do the same thing they're trying to do by saying, "Oh, it's a right wing it's a left that's all this killing is because of the left. Liberal is bad." If they knock a word, a label hard enough, the people that LBW spoke about, I am so disappointed in the people that don't think. That's exactly what happens. They fall for the okie doke and they continue to vote against their own interests. Because what the Democratic Socialists stand for is what most Americans say that they want. It's what most Americans say that they want. They want their Social Security, right, Diane Holland? They want their Medicare. They want subsidies to take care of their children because it is so damn high to give care to their kids. They want all those things. John, come on in.
Yeah, I wanted to say, these terms like democratic socialist, communist, all of these things that people go unchallenged by the media. Since Mamdani, he's a communist. And obviously he's not a communist because they believe in violent overthrow of the government by the proletariat, the working class, and to set up a dictatorship. Let's get that straight, America. That's what communism is. That's not what Mamdani is, advocating. And socialism has been part and parcel of the political discourse and also of policy for, since the 1850s. I mean, it goes back that far throughout the world. So it's not a bad, term. And the press don't, challenge that and don't define it for people. And people don't get that information from politicians, from the schools, from anywhere, except maybe like what you're doing right now. And so that it's just weak. And so then people become propagandized too, and
exactly.
They can't. Yeah,
you're absolutely. Let me tell you, John, you nailed it. Right? They're propagandized, and it's not only that they're propagandized; it's that they're ill-informed, and in doing so, look, I have 3 people in the chat right now, completely confused. They just don't understand it. Right? They don't understand that whenever you say socialist, right, the first thing you'll hear one of these clowns say is Venezuela, Cuba, and it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about at all. And by the way, what Hugo Chavez, the original Hugo Chavez, what he was doing in Venezuela, guess what? Actually worked, because he was going from a benevolent point of view. A rich country like Venezuela, with all the natural resources going just to the plutocracy, to the oligarchy. And what he did is he said, no, the oil belongs to all of us. And I am waiting for Americans to ask the government to say, wait a minute, all that oil that you guys are drilling on public land, why is it going to the shareholders and the companies? Why isn't it going to all of us since it's on public lands? And when they complain, remind them, by the way, let's give a precedent. And that precedent is right here in this country. In Alaska, everybody gets a stipend based on the royalties from the oil industry. And nobody says, Alaska, a Republican state. Do you ever hear them talk about socialism? But no. Exactly. So what we have, as LBW pointed out, is an uneducated population that we need. All of us that are listening here need to share this information and make sure that other people are aware, because most of these clowns don't know what they're talking about. But thank you very much for your call, John.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Anyway, welcome aboard. Victoria Ann Sahara says, that's propaganda against communism. Any truly democratic structure can vote in a communist government, and has, but the U.S. overthrew them, legally elected, and we put in puppets to serve our craftiless overlord billionaire. Look, people from Pelosi right back, and Pelosi's a Democrat, they find it so hard to tell the truth, right? As far as when it comes to capitalism, etc. It's an extractive system. It's a system that harms the most and extract from it is a system of abuse. It's a welfare system for the few. It is an extract. You can name all these things and show the numbers. The fact that a billionaire can make billion as the people in his companies are on welfare tells you something. It tells you something that you don't want to believe, because they first made that label bad. But anyway, we're going to talk about drugs. So as I told you, Donald Trump did the right thing with his commentary, not with his actions, with his commentary when he said, if we're giving money to Intel, we should own a piece of Intel. He needed to make that across the board. If we give subsidies to oil companies, we should own a piece of that oil company, and those revenues should come into the coffer. It would reduce all our income taxes. We could get all kind of breaks. The same applies to drug companies, which we are the ones who generate all the income. For a better world, I need us to get off of the thing about including Elizabeth Warren. You call it regulated capitalism. Elizabeth Warren called it, I forgot what kind of capitalism she called it. I don't want to get rid of capitalism. I want the same laissez-faire capitalism to operate. I just don't want it to be operating on the things that are vital to us all. In other words, freedom means having a true free enterprise system means that you can have companies that want to operate in a capitalist domain. They can operate. People have the right to be fools. People have the right to accept being taken advantage of, right? In other words, if I don't mind buying a pet rock, if I don't mind buying dirt from the Mississippi River at an inflated cost, if I don't mind doing that, I have the right to give my money to people who are willing to snow me. But for things that are vital to humanity, healthcare, energy, clothes, there's a certain level of our existence that shouldn't be placed in the capitalist domain. We should have the freedom to have capitalism, but we should also have the responsibility as a society to have certain parts of our society, transportation, education, healthcare, outside of the capitalist domain, right? And that's not being an anti-capitalist. So, regulated capitalism, I don't even want to regulate capitalism. Here's the thing for a better world. If we follow the bifurcated economic system that I'm talking about, we can let laissez-faire capitalism do what it does. And the good thing about it is that is the easiest way to kill it, right? Because when it works at its maximal level, people realize it and they'll then want to have collectives. They'll want to have all these different things where you're not exploited. And so I just want us to keep the things that are necessary for society in our domain. Anyway, Donald Trump comes out and he's going to have TrumpRX. In other words, and this is what it says. TrumpRX refers to a newly announced initiative by Donald Trump to create a direct consumer prescription drug purchasing platform that aims to lower medicine costs by cutting out intermediaries and aligning U.S. drug prices with those paid abroad. Wow. I don't care if you hate Donald Trump. That's a good start. That's a great start. Because guess what that sounds like? You know what it sounds like. So what is TrumpRX? Direct sales model. The panel, as announced, would allow Americans to buy prescription drugs directly without going through insurance or pharmacy benefit managers, as PBMs. PBMs are responsible for really raising the price of a lot of these drugs. Yes, Mark Cuban and Amazon have things similar to that, right? But we want to take all of those guys out of the system, because all of those guys they're just there to mark up these prices. In today's world, where you can have everything online, where you can have distribution services that are third party, it is not at all difficult for us to have a system where, the drug companies just go ahead and sell direct. No middle person. You don't have to pay all these other costs president of insurance companies, presidents of PBMs. You don't have to have all that cost. You take it out. But then then he needed to go a step further and said, and by the way, drug companies, because you are using products that we created, we should also have a stake in your drug. Let's see. Michael says Trump's plan isn't to lower drug prices for Americans. Trump's plan is for other countries to raise drug prices to match what we have here in the U.S. It is a non-starter. I don't want to quite. I see where you're coming from, Ratnin. I don't want you to go there yet, okay? Because here is the deal. Don't go there yet. I want us to be objective, okay? I said it's a start. The start is the reason those other countries have lower drug prices is because they force the drug companies to do that. But we don't. Okay, so let's start there. It's a good start. But there's a lot to go. What we really want is Medicare for all. But Medicare for all still has to buy the drugs. Medicare for all still have to do all those things. So we don't only have to have the front end that meets the patient taken care of. We also have to have the back end that is purchasing the services, that is purchasing the drugs, that is purchasing the medical care from doctors. Okay, so it's a longer story than that. All right, Pfizer is a major drug manufacturer to strike a deal in this scheme. So right now, Pfizer is going to work to do that. That's another good thing. Most favored nation pricing. Central to TrumpRX approach is tying U.S. drug prices to the lowest price paid by developed countries, making U.S. patients pay no more than others, a most favored nation status. And since these other nations are not going to increase the price of their drugs without, again, unless the right wing take over in those countries, that is a start. Remember, the ultimate goal is Medicare for all. And for us, actually, if we invest in these companies to get our portion of that company back. Okay, executive orders and agencies. Well, you know what his executive orders were before. So instead of just stopping Donald Trump's program or his purported policy outright, I think it is time for us to call his bluff. Because that policy turns out to be better than what Biden and pushed by Nancy Pelosi were talking about 10 drugs every year, that sort of stuff. In my opinion, those were non-starters. This here makes our drug prices, Canada and all these things right away. If it were to come to pass, I don't think he ever had the intention of this coming to pass. But I say let's call his bluff. Let's call his bluff. Because this triangulation that he's doing right here is worth looking into. Of course, what I think his expectation is going to be is that some one of these companies are going to sue. The Supreme Court gets involved, knock it down and say he can't do it. And then he'll say, hey, I tried, but the Supreme Court told me no. Again, folks, I think if Democrats are smart, they'll take they'll take TrumpRX and force his hands. Remember, this isn't about me or you. This isn't about saving face. This isn't about hating Donald Trump. Let me tell you better. If Donald Trump were doing things to make life better for poor people, to make life better for the middle class, to create a better system, I would wear a MAGA hat. But I know that's not where they are. I know that's not where they are. So I have to go to the next best thing, the Democratic Party. And what I'm hoping for is our youngsters, meaning Mandami, Maxwell Frost, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and all these others. I am waiting for these guys who really know about social policies, step up. Step up and make the change. But folks, yeah, for a better world, so thank you so much for pointing out Trump's co-option and triangulation tactics. You know, that's what he did in 2016. He didn't quite do it as much in 2020, and I was shocked about that. But 2024, he did it on steroids. He did it on steroids. He was talking to the people on Melanie Stansberry. I get her emails. I haven't really done a lot on her LBW. Maybe you can give me 2 pointers that I should look at in that. Let's see, that I should be looking at her. Michael Radnes Egberto, as it comes to Republicans, all they seem to want is for others to suffer more than they're suffering. Pretty much everything they do can be summed up. Suffering is the point. Look, I don't disagree with you at all. That's why I said, if you have a Trump coming out with this, call his bluff. Call his bluff. That is what Democrats, progressives need to learn how to do. Call their bluff. You know, so anyhow, we are close to the end of the program. So I want to thank all of you for coming, all of you for sticking around. And I'm going to write the blog for the right-wing stuff later on tonight. I don't think I'm ready to write the blog on this drug triangulation yet, because I do want to get a bit more educated on the nuts and bolts on it. So I'm going to hold back a while before I write that one. You know, I only want to come to you guys with fact-based information. So I'll hold back on that one. But again, let's go ahead and triangulate. Let's go ahead and not let him do what he's, normally does, triangulate. They got to hold the bulls by the horn, or the horn by the bulls, the bull by the horns. Anyway, folks, please go ahead and let's see. He's doing the opposite of making America great. You're absolutely right. All right, folks, it's time for us to end the program. But before we end the program, I have to do my ask. I'd like to ask all of you who have the wherewithal to do so to please support the program. And how do you do that? You support the program by becoming a paid subscriber of Egberto Off the Record. And as you know, this program supports our radio show. It supports our TikToking. It supports our books. It supports everything. So please go ahead and consider going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and become a paid subscriber. If you are on your chat or on your machine, please just go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber. Thank you for being here, Lorna Mangles, LBW. Thank you for that. Hirut Kidain Miriam, how you doing? David Hogg, yes, David Hogg as well. Okay, he was in David Hogg know about being shot at. Let's see. Please support us the best you can. Again, one more time, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is the way to do it. Become a paid subscriber, and you'll get to read all those books you see scrolling on the screen. You'll get to read that directly on our Substack platform. I guarantee you'd enjoy every single one of them. Got to get out of here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to hear your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.